with the first day of testimony in Sean Diddy Combs' federal crimes trial. After seating a jury of 8 men and 4 women, the prosecution delivered its opening statement, and they came out swinging.
Turning now to New York, opening statements have officially begun in the trial against Sean Diddy Combs. The charges, including trafficking and racketeering, carry a possible life sentence behind bars.
Prosecutor Emily Johnson said the public knew Diddy as a larger-than-life business mogul, but behind the scenes, he was forcing women into using violence and drugs to keep them in line. She said Combs had an inner circle that helped him commit sex crimes, other crimes, things like arson and kidnapping. And then came the graphic details from what we now know are called the freak-offs.
Well, Andrew, trial is expected to wrap up in the next half hour or so. We had opening statements this morning, and then they got right to the witnesses. When we got back this afternoon, they seated this jury, which looks to be 8 men, 4 women. About 3/4 of them are people of color, just to give you an idea of the breakdown. The first witness to testify was Officer Israel Flores. He was the security officer back in 2016.
Where Diddy allegedly recorded encounters that he'd arranged between paid escorts and his alleged victims, including his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Now, the feds say Diddy once forced an escort to urinate on Cassie. That came out in court today. When it was the defense's turn, they didn't deny Diddy's temper. They said, yes, he can be violent. They admitted that. Remember, that's not what he's on trial for. They said, yes, he's got anger issues, and his actions might warrant domestic violence charges. It was clever that they said that.
We saw that now infamous recording of Sean Combs allegedly beating Cassie Ventura in that hotel hallway. We heard from him. We watched the video in its entirety from multiple angles in order to see exactly what unfolded.
But trafficking and racketeering, again, that's what the federal case is about. The defense says those don't apply. And all that freak-off, according to the defense, they say it was consensual. They said that Diddy's love of baby oil, and this was actually a quote, they said the love of baby oil was not a federal crime.
And as we watch this video, I want to say, by the way, everything we're about to talk about during this live shot could be perceived as disturbing materials. Just want to give our viewers a little bit of a warning here.
What happens when a global music mogul, once praised for building an empire, is forced to hide his face in federal court while his own daughters flee the room in tears? That's not just a tabloid headline. That's what unfolded today. Inside a packed Manhattan courtroom where Sean Diddy Combs sat frozen as Daniel Phillip, a male escort, unleashed testimony so graphic, so disturbing, the energy in the room reportedly shifted from tense silence to full-on gasps. And then it happened. All 3 of Diddy's daughters stood up and left, 2 of them visibly shaken, escorted out as the courtroom air turned heavy. No cameras, no music, no publicist could spin this moment. Because for once, the bad boy CEO wasn't in control. But here's what the mainstream headlines won't tell you. This trial, it's not just about Cassie or old lawsuits, it's about the web. A deeply connected network of events, cover-ups, and silent enablers that are now unraveling faster than Diddy's legal team can suppress them. From bribed security guards, to hidden surveillance tapes, to a rumored celebrity index that could drag A-listers into the witness box, this is shaping up to be far bigger than anyone imagined. In the next few minutes, we're diving headfirst into the real story behind that courtroom eruption, the escort's explosive claims, the abuse timeline Cassie laid bare, and the jaw-dropping defense Diddy's lawyers are hoping the jury somehow buys. And trust me, each chapter is more unbelievable than the last. Because if this trial keeps unfolding the way it did today, we're not just witnessing a celebrity downfall, we're watching a legacy disintegrate in real time. Stay with me. What you're about to hear may change the way you view hip-hop royalty, fame, and the dark deals made behind closed doors. You've probably never heard the name Daniel Phillip before this trial. He's not a celebrity, not a media figure, and certainly not the kind of person you'd expect to go toe-to-toe with one of the most powerful men in the music industry.
There's a little bit of a warning here. Watching Sean Combs kick and drag and grab Cassie Ventura by her neck and by her hair over and over again. And then at one point, Cassie walks over to a phone that's in this lobby, lobby area of their 6th floor hotel room.
But as of today, he's become a central figure in what might be the most explosive courtroom drama of the decade. Daniel Phillip is a 32-year-old male escort from Los Angeles who says he was hired, repeatedly, by people working on behalf of Sean Diddy Combs. According to his sworn testimony, these weren't your average high-roller parties. They were what he described as freak-offs, multi-day, drug-fueled sex events arranged by Diddy himself, with strict expectations, bizarre rituals, and an unmistakable tone of coercion. Phillip claims that from the very first encounter, it was clear he wasn't just there to party, he was there to perform. He says he was expected to engage in graphic acts, often under the influence of drugs he didn't request, and that Diddy would allegedly record these sessions, sometimes watching silently from a corner, other times actively orchestrating who did what and when. According to Phillip, Diddy's behavior was less of a host and more of a puppet master. But what really made jaws drop wasn't just the details. It was how Phillip presented his evidence. He came prepared with receipts. DM screenshots between him and Combs' handlers, a black leather-bound journal with detailed dates, names, hotel room numbers, and a USB drive full of content he claims was requested, filmed, and sometimes leaked without consent. And here's the chilling part. He's not alone. Phillip told the court there were dozens of other escorts, some recruited from modeling agencies, some from Craigslist, others simply passed around through social networks. He described a system.
And she calls for this instant services and a security guard comes up. And at that point, he's able to separate them and he walks them down the hallway towards the hotel room where they were. Cassie apparently telling the security officer that she just wants to leave, and Sean Combs reportedly telling her that she's not going to leave him.
Not an accident, a pattern, not a one-off event. The courtroom reportedly fell silent when Phillip recounted a moment where Diddy allegedly struck Cassie mid-party because she didn't follow one of his instructions. He said he wanted to intervene, but feared retaliation. And when asked what kept him from walking away entirely, Phillip responded with one word: power. Power, he said, is what makes people do things they swore they never would. It's what makes them stay silent. And in Diddy's world, silence was currency. But his silence broke wide open today. And as the judge looked down over the witness stand, all eyes shifted. Because the next person to speak was the woman who had lived through it for over a decade, Cassie Ventura. And what she said next? Even worse. When Cassie Ventura took the stand, the energy in the courtroom shifted again. But this time, it wasn't shock. It was tension. You could feel it. The room was waiting. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but reporters described the moment as pin-drop silent. Even Diddy, who'd spent most of the trial with his head low or whispering to his lawyers, looked straight at her. And what Cassie delivered wasn't a tearful breakdown.
When they opened the door to that hotel room, there was another man, according to this officer, sitting in the hotel room. Now, that is something that the defense disputes since it wasn't in the actual incident report.
It was cold, clear, and devastating. She started by confirming what Daniel Phillip had testified. Yes, there were freak-offs. And no, they weren't optional. According to Cassie, Diddy told her early in their relationship, back when she was barely 22, that part of loving him meant being open to anything. That included bringing other men into their bedroom. That included orchestrating these encounters. That included doing things on camera that she later feared could be used against her. At first, she said, she thought she could say no. But every time she pushed back, he'd punish her. Not just emotionally, but physically. She described times where he'd throw objects, slam doors, or worse, cut off professional opportunities. One quote from Cassie hit hard. It stopped being about intimacy. It became work. I wasn't his girlfriend, I was the entertainment director. She went on to explain how Diddy would become possessive and paranoid, allegedly checking her phone, controlling her outfits, and even deciding when she could leave the house. She said he isolated her from friends, managers, and family. And then came the hotel hallway video, the one the world hadn't seen yet, but federal agents had. This was the video Cassie said she never thought would surface. The footage, captured in 2016 at a luxury New York hotel, shows Diddy allegedly grabbing her by the hair, throwing her to the ground, and kicking her while she tries to crawl away. Prosecutors played the clip on a private screen. Multiple jurors were seen looking down. One was reported wiping away tears. Cassie said she stayed silent for years because she was afraid, but today she looked her abuser in the face. And still, Diddy barely reacted. That was until his daughters, who had been quietly seated behind him, stood up and left the courtroom. The media frenzy outside exploded. Reporters scrambled. Phones buzzed. The world was finally seeing the empire's cracks, and they were spreading fast. But inside that courtroom, things were only getting messier, because now the defense was ready to strike back. No one expected the daughters to stay forever, but no one thought they'd walk out like that either. Right after the 2016 hotel footage played, just minutes into Cassie's gut-wrenching account, the courtroom door creaked open. 3 young girls, Diddy's daughters, quietly stood, linked arms, and exited. Reporters caught their mother and a female publicist trailing them out, shielding them from cameras. Sources say they didn't come back. It was the moment that shifted the narrative, from salacious details to real consequences. These weren't just accusations anymore. This was about families seeing truth unfold, not in headlines, but in raw, unfiltered courtroom reality. Diddy, according to multiple eyewitnesses, lowered his face into his hands and didn't speak for nearly 20 minutes. His attorneys leaned in, whispered frantically, but the weight of the moment was undeniable. Still, the trial had to move forward. The defense, clearly rattled, pivoted hard. And their counterattack? Let's just say it raised more eyebrows than sympathy.
From right now is Daniel Phillip. That is the male escort that had multiple interactions with Cassie and Diddy over the course of years. Essentially, he said he was initially called over to meet them at a hotel because he was told he was there for a bachelorette party, and then when he got there, it was just Cassie and Sean Combs.
Lead counsel Bradley Mann opened with a shocking strategy. This was not abuse. This was a relationship between consenting adults with unique boundaries. He claimed the freak-offs were not coercion, but part of a mutually explored lifestyle, describing Diddy and Cassie as an adventurous, open couple involved in a kinky but consensual dynamic. He even suggested Cassie helped plan these sessions as a creative partner, not a victim. The defense's main play was clear: normalize the chaos, frame it as misunderstood, rebrand manipulation as collaboration. They even tried to spin Cassie's silence over the years as proof of consent. If she truly felt trapped, Mann argued, why stay for over a decade? But prosecutors were quick to shut that down, citing psychological abuse, career threats, and multiple non-disclosure agreements as tools of control. They also reminded the jury Cassie had settled a civil case but never dropped the truth. Still, the defense wasn't done. They hinted at introducing character witnesses who might contradict Cassie's narrative, and even called into question the credibility of Daniel Phillip, suggesting he had motives beyond truth. What started as a brutal day of testimony quickly spiraled into a PR chess match inside a courtroom, a game of who could control the story before it hit headlines. But while the lawyers sparred, the public's eyes were already fixated on the next mystery, one so massive it could explode into a second scandal entirely. Because behind closed doors, a celebrity witness list was quietly leaked. And the names on it? You won't believe who's involved. Just when the courtroom felt like it had hit its peak, another bomb dropped. But this one came from outside. Late in the afternoon,
but Sean Combs wore a disguise for the beginning of these interactions. He wore a bandana across his face, a baseball cap on his head, and a white robe. But this escort, Daniel Phillip, said that he was able to identify him very quickly.
As lawyers were still battling it out over the narrative, word spread that a sealed document had been leaked to the press. The name of that document? The Supplemental Celebrity Index. According to multiple insiders and now several confirmed outlets, this list contains the names of over 190 individuals allegedly connected to the wider sex trafficking investigation. Not all are accused, but all reportedly are either named in documents, subpoenaed for questioning, or flagged by the FBI as individuals of interest. And let's be clear, we're not talking random assistants or studio interns here. The names whispered behind the scenes include Grammy-winning artists, billion-dollar studio executives, A-list actors, and even former presidential donors. People you've seen on red carpets, people whose faces are on magazine covers right now. And the panic in Hollywood, it's very, very real. Phone calls are being made, legal teams are being activated, PR firms are on full lockdown mode because no one knows yet which names are officially part of the investigation and which are just associated through parties, appearances, or connections to Combs' inner circle. And here's the wildest part. Some of the individuals may not have done anything criminal, but their mere presence at certain events, caught in a photo, mentioned in a text, seen in a hotel lobby, could be enough to drag them into testimony. One insider said it best. You don't need to be guilty to get subpoenaed, you just need to be in the room. It's a nightmare scenario for Hollywood, where image is everything and distance from controversy is a full-time job. And now, with the media circling and speculation spreading like wildfire on social platforms, no one wants to be the next name trending under #Diddy trial. Meanwhile, back in the courtroom, prosecutors are reportedly reviewing more footage, surveillance videos from hotels, club bookings, and even airline manifests. All of it could place certain celebrities at certain events. And if those events match the timeline of key accusations,
there was a point where they were describing what he was doing in graphic detail, that he was directing Cassie and Daniel Phillip to.
Lawyers are sleeping with one eye open. But while the celebrity panic builds on the outside, inside that federal courtroom, the evidence is already mounting. And one testimony from earlier in the week has become the most chilling of all, because it reveals just how far someone allegedly went to cover their tracks. Let's talk about bribes, erased footage, and the hotel guard who says Diddy paid him to disappear the truth. While headlines exploded over Cassie's testimony and the leaked celebrity index inside the courtroom, another witness stepped up, and what he revealed added an entirely new layer to the case. Meet Kevin Moreno, a former security supervisor at a high-end hotel in Midtown Manhattan. He's not flashy. Not a celebrity, just a guy in his 40s who spent years watching cameras and breaking up rich people drama in penthouse suites. But what he told the court left the room breathless. Kevin says it was back in late 2016, same time Cassie mentioned one of the worst assaults. He was working the overnight shift when he saw security footage of Sean Combs dragging a woman by her hair down the hallway, then kicking her while she tried to crawl away. The woman, he would later confirm, was Cassie. Moreno said he immediately flagged it to hotel management, knowing it was serious. But instead of police getting involved, he got a visit from Diddy himself. Not security, not a lawyer, Diddy, in person. According to Kevin, Diddy showed up at the back entrance around 4 a.m. with two men, walked straight into the staff office and offered him cash. Not just for silence, but allegedly to delete the footage permanently. Kevin told the court he refused. But just days later, he was reassigned to a sister property uptown. Within 2 weeks, he was out of a job, terminated without warning. No severance, no explanation.
Cassie Ventura did not take the stand today. She is expected to be there tomorrow, and she'd better soon. This is another very interesting part of all of this. She is about to give birth to her third child any minute now, and she's about to get on the witness stand, about to have a baby. Another twist.
The footage? Supposedly gone. But here's the twist. During the federal raid earlier this year, FBI agents recovered the deleted video from a backup server, one that had been flagged due to an unrelated cyber issue. Prosecutors are now using it as key visual evidence, and it's the very clip that made Diddy's daughters walk out earlier this week. The jury watched it in stunned silence. Diddy reportedly lowered his head again, covering his mouth with his hand. And Kevin? He says he has no regrets. I didn't know what would happen after that night, but I knew what I saw, and I knew it was wrong. This testimony hits at something deeper. It's no longer just about what happened. It's about what was covered up, who helped, and who got paid to stay silent. The question now? How many other deleted tapes are out there? And if Diddy's team tried to bury this footage, what else have they hidden? If you thought things had already hit the fan, think again. Because we're barely through week 1 of what's projected to be a trial lasting up to 10 weeks, and the prosecution is just getting warmed up. After Daniel Phillip's testimony, Cassie's revelations, and Kevin Moreno's jaw-dropping account of hush money and lost footage, the court has now entered a new phase: strategy warfare. Prosecutors are playing offense fast and hard.
Two witnesses were called today, including a former security officer at the hotel, where Diddy is seen on video attacking Ventura brutally. You remember that video back in 2016. The prosecutors played the video. The witness testified that Diddy tried to pay him off with a giant wad of cash.
Meanwhile, Diddy's defense is scrambling to reframe the narrative before public opinion turns completely toxic. So, what's next? First, cross-examinations. Cassie's lawyers have made it clear she's not done, and neither is the defense. They're preparing to question her credibility, her timeline, and even her motives for testifying now, despite reaching a settlement last year. Expect brutal, personal questions and emotional courtroom moments that could swing the jury either way. Second, surprise witnesses. Multiple insiders say the prosecution has at least 3 more former employees ready to take the stand, one of whom allegedly worked security for Diddy's private residence and is said to have hours of documented behavior logs. This could introduce a devastating pattern. Not just one victim, not just one incident, but a lifestyle built on control and fear. Third, celebrity subpoenas. While unconfirmed, legal experts suggest the leaked celebrity index may result in names being officially called to testify, even if only as witnesses to parties, travel arrangements, or private jet logs. People like Usher, Justin Bieber, or past associates could be required to appear. And if they refuse, that could spark an entirely different media circus. Then there's the money trail. The FBI is reportedly analyzing records tied to shell companies, travel accounts, and talent payouts to determine if federal trafficking laws were broken not just by individuals, but by business entities Combs controlled. This would mean the case could grow into a RICO indictment, dragging in financial backers, silent partners, and corporations tied to Bad Boy's empire. And don't forget, this case isn't the only one.
The day's second witness was a male escort. This is where it really got very juicy, who says that he was paid by Diddy numerous times to have sex with Cassie while Diddy sat there in the corner and watched. He says he once saw Diddy throw a liquor bottle at Cassie and heard him beating her in another room.
Other accusers, some with sealed identities, are rumored to be waiting for the right moment to come forward. If they do, the prosecution could reopen parts of the investigation, turning this already massive trial into a multi-phase legal war. So, where does that leave us? A shattered reputation, a courtroom still reeling, and a cultural reckoning that's just beginning to unfold. Because when the curtain drops on fame, power, and billion-dollar branding, all that's left is the truth. And in this case, that truth is being revealed, one devastating testimony at a time. There was a time when Sean Diddy Combs seemed untouchable. He redefined hip-hop, he launched global brands, he stood beside presidents, walked runways, hosted the biggest after-parties in the world. His name was synonymous with success, flashy, fast, and fearless. But now he's sitting in a courtroom, surrounded by federal agents, silenced by mounting accusations, and haunted by a past that refuses to stay buried. And every single day of this trial, another brick falls from the empire he spent 3 decades building. This isn't just a celebrity scandal, this is a full-blown legal and cultural reckoning, one that's forcing the world to ask uncomfortable questions about power, consent, and the silent machinery that enables abuse in elite circles. Cassie's voice cracked open the surface. Daniel Phillip's receipts blew the lid off. And Kevin Moreno's courage confirmed what many feared. This didn't happen in the shadows. It happened in plain sight. The defense's spin? That all of it was consensual, exaggerated, or taken out of context. But as the testimonies stack up, that argument is starting to look less like a strategy and more like desperation. And while the court decides guilt or innocence, the court of public opinion is already shifting. Artists are distancing themselves, brand deals are vanishing, industry insiders are going radio silent. Even some of Diddy's former collaborators have scrubbed social posts, fearing backlash by association. But maybe the real question isn't what happens to Diddy. Maybe it's what happens to the system around him. Because, let's be honest, Diddy didn't create this power dynamic alone. It was propped up by yes men, protected by NDAs, and polished by PR firms. And now that the cracks are showing, everyone's running for cover. What makes this story hit even harder is the timing. In an era where survivors are finding their voices, where billionaires are being called out, and where platforms can elevate or destroy reputations overnight, no one is above scrutiny, not even hip-hop royalty. So, where does it all end? That's still unfolding. The trial has weeks to go. More names may fall, more tapes may surface, and more witnesses may shatter the silence. But here's what we know right now. The truth has momentum. And once it starts moving, no amount of money, fame, or legacy can stop it. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure you're subscribed, because this case is far from over. And when the next chapter drops, you'll want to be the first to hear it. Because this is more than a trial. It's the fall of a king.